Hello and welcome back to the Untold Athlete Podcast. Thanks for joining us for another episode as we continue our journey of sharing inspiring stories from the world of sports. If you believe in our mission and want to support the show, we'd love for you to follow, like and subscribe. Your engagement helps us reach more listeners and spread these important narratives. In this episode, I had the privilege of sitting down with someone that I've competed alongside but never fully known the depth of her story. It was incredible to hear about her experiences, the challenges she faced, and the triumphs that shaped her career. So sit back and strap in for the Untold Athlete with Sammy Rockett-Miller. Hello guys, today we are incredibly fortunate to be sitting down with an acro gymnast, a tumbler, a European medalist, a world champion, a weightlifter and a CrossFit athlete, and that is just one person. She's had a jam-packed career and continues to push her limits every single day, known for her insane athleticism and unmatched work ethic. If you follow her on Instagram, you'll know that the time of day does not matter to her. She always finds a way to fit training into her busy schedule, and we're very, very excited to welcome to the Untold Athlete today, Sammy Rockett. Sammy, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How's training going?
Very, very well, thank you. Yeah, it's going really well.
You're CrossFitting at the moment a lot?
Yes, CrossFitting a lot, heading towards some comps, so yeah, training hard at the minute.
What comps have you got?
I've got a Northern Championships coming up at the end of September, like a team of 6. I'm doing that with Defiant Co.
Nice.
And then a couple of days later, we fly to Marbella for the Marbella Championship. So that's my first one abroad, which I'm very excited for. And then when I get back, I've got a CrossFit license. It's Rep It Out, Graft. So that's in Sheffield. So yeah, back-to-back weekends, which I didn't realise when I booked them. And now I know, and I'm like nearly 32, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Very busy.
Very busy, but it'll be fun. I'm excited. Marbella feels like a little holiday in the middle as well. Going to be good weather, hopefully.
And I'm sure you'll be in the pool focusing on your recovery and things like that.
Tan.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm like planning outfits based around the least tan lines.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You got to look good on the comp floor.
100%. What's the point in doing it? Well, saying that, have you ever seen my comp photos? I don't think that matters.
I remember your comp photos from gymnastics.
Oh, brilliant.
I came across one earlier, actually.
Yeah, that one where G-force has hit my face.
In the full straight, I think
I've
it is.
seen it.
Yeah.
Traumatised.
Yeah, it brought back memories.
Horrendous.
We're going to start with some quick fire questions.
Yep, let's do it.
Got a quick brain?
No, I really am, but let's do it. This brain is so slow.
Let's see. So, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Easy.
No
quick.
deliberation.
Sweet or savoury?
Sweet. Can't go a day without chocolate.
Not savoury?
No. I love savoury, but I'd follow it up with some sweet. So what's the point? I might as well just say sweet.
Yeah, leave the savoury out of the equation.
Yeah.
Competition day or training day?
Comp day. The adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
I love training, and I always say like that is the best hour of my day, but something about a comp floor, it's just really exciting.
Yeah, there's nothing
especially
like
if you're in like a team competition with your friends and stuff. It's just such a buzz.
Yeah,
it's
coming
wicked.
from gymnastics, it's so individual. You don't get to compete as a team too often.
Yeah.
And you do get a lot from being in a team, don't you?
Yeah, and I think you like sell your soul for other people. I know it sounds daft. Like, I've done indie comps as well, but I think you genuinely don't want to let them people down, and you just push your limits a little bit more.
Yeah, I
enjoy it a lot.
So, having said that, team competition or solo competition?
I'm going to say team.
Yeah,
I think that's maybe like you said, because of having a gymnastics background. Obviously, I did acro with the partner before, but a long stint as a tumbler on your own, I think being a team is nice. Indie's good because you're the one in control of your results, so you're the only one to blame, if anything. But I think being a team, you can use each other's strengths and like celebrate each other's successes. It's really nice.
Yeah,
it's such a good environment.
Being in gymnastics, I always really was jealous of people in team sports.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I sometimes used to watch other people like, I wish I had that, like somebody there for me at the end of the track sometimes, or someone's telling me it'll be all right.
Yeah.
But you don't have that.
No, not in gymnastics. Pizzas or protein shakes?
Pizzas.
Pizzas, easy.
Easy choice, no deliberation.
Yeah, who's picking protein shake there?
Exactly. Not a person I want to know.
Beach break or city break?
So I love the sun, but I don't want to be on the sand. So I'm going to say a beach break so I can go in the sea and then just toddle off to my sun lounger and tan, if I can say that. I do love a city break and I love exploring cities, but I think when you work and stuff, you just want to lay in the sun sometimes and not move.
Staying in or going out?
Staying in. I know, I'm boring now.
You've changed.
I'm a changed woman. I'm no longer the old Sammy Rockett.
Oh, she's still in there somewhere.
Yeah, I go out maybe like 4 times a year, a quarterly outing.
Nice.
For special occasions, birthdays, if I've got to.
Netflix binge or going out for a walk?
Oh. So I love going out for a walk, and I will die on that hill. I think walking's so good for you. But once we've started a Netflix series, that is it. We're like fully in. So probably, depends, through the week I love to go on a walk, but I do love a Netflix binge.
This is, I don't know why I'm asking this.
Go on.
Cat person or dog person?
Oh, dog. You shouldn't even ask that. Sacrilege.
Have you got a dog, Sammy?
Yeah, I got Rufus.
Yeah?
Yeah, my best friend in the world.
How is he? Where is he now?
He's at Brandon's mum's house, yeah.
Being well looked after?
Well looked after, well fed.
Last one. I don't know where you're going to go here.
Oh.
Gymnastics or CrossFit?
Oh, that's a really hard one. It's weird because I absolutely love watching gymnastics now. It took me a while to kind of get there, but I love watching it. But the way CrossFit makes me feel, I'm not as successful in it by a long shot, but maybe CrossFit.
Okay.
For who I am now, to be in a sport that celebrates women no matter what they weigh or look like is probably more important to me at this age. So I think CrossFit now.
Yeah, I love that.
But then, it's an hard one, that, because I love watching gymnastics. The Olympics just been on. I'm such a gymnastics fan, but for 5 years I probably weren't. I didn't want to even turn the telly on and see it. And now I'm just I should have shown that sport the respect it deserves, 'cause it's amazing.
I was exactly the same. When I came out of gymnastics, I had a lot of bad feeling, and I didn't watch a trampoline or a gymnastics comp for
exactly the same as me.
Probably 5 years,
Yeah, exactly the same. And when I watch it, I'm just no, this is why I love it. It's beautiful and it's amazing and they're incredible, and you kind of have a behind-the-scenes view of the work that's gone in.
So Sammy, we'd like to just get started just with you giving us sort of an introduction to you into sport. Obviously, we know you came from quite a few different backgrounds. So if you can kind of run us through how you started and all the way through to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So right back at the beginning, I didn't start gymnastics mega early compared to a lot of people. I was about 8 or 9 years old. I know some people are doing it from tots, aren't they? So I was a very hyperactive child, so I've been told. I always wanted to learn things, and I'd always want to go on a trampoline on holiday and then try and throw myself off the couch when I got home. So my mum and dad took me to a little gymnastics club in our local town called Jesters at the time, and they were an amazing little gymnastics club. And that was my introduction. And I was actually teaching myself stuff, because they could only take you so far, these smaller clubs. So I ended up going to a Yorkshire Championships around, I want to say 2002-ish. And I was scouted by a coach from Wakefield Gym Club and then ended up at Wakefield. So I was doing sports acrobatics at the time. So I was working with female partners in a woman's pair at this point. So I was a top. So I did a lot of pedestal work, and it was a lot of training at that age. I would say I was doing before school, after school, from the age of 10. And then around 2004, that's when I first started competing for Great Britain for sports acro. So I'd kind of really took it seriously. I was still in a woman's pair at the time, so I had an amazing partner at that time called Lindsay Crow. And I still have so much respect and funny memories of Lindsay. But she was an amazing partner. She were someone that would stick up for you, that she'd protect you a little bit. She were incredible.
That team sort of thing that you were lacking then when you sort of went into the individual aspects. Yeah,
and our families really got on. We were from the same towns, and I just absolutely loved my time working with Lindsay. So I went to my first World Championships in France in 2004, and me and her won a world medal together, which was very nice. Congrats. So we came second at that competition. Lindsay was a bit older than me, so usually your bases are a lot older than, not a lot older, but I think back now she wasn't even that much older than me, but at the time you think that they're so much older. The training was tough in sports acro, and I think anyone that's done sports acro will tell you that. As a top, the weight management is crazy.
For people that don't know what sports acro is, a lot of people know Spellbound from Britain's Got Talent, and it's sort of cheerleading on steroids, isn't it? It's
100%.
It's a really, really difficult discipline of gymnastics that a lot of people have never seen before. Yeah,
I think, and it shows such. You always see the tops that are doing the handstands and the club moves and the flips, but actually how strong those bases have to be to hold those people. And you've got mixed four, you've got a men's four, that's incredible. You've got trios, pairs, but there's a lot of dancing involved and actual choreography that you don't obviously have as a tumbler when I got older. But as part of being a top, a lot of what we did was individual training at the same time. So I worked with Lindsay, but also I had to come in my own and do all the pedestal work, so the handstands. And at that time I had a Russian coach. We had quite a lot of Russian influence at the time then, so we used to a lot of ballet and a lot of stretching and a lot of weight management. I remember this, they wanted me to weigh 28 kilo, which when you think about what that is now, it's so
nothing.
light, isn't it? And I mean, between us here, I've never been the smallest of athletes. I've always been stocky. So I'm not like when you look at a gymnast and they're like some sports acro tops are really like quite lean with long limbs. And when they do moves, it looks incredible. I was always quite like stocky and powerful even then. So I was trying to keep my weight down. But obviously when you're like going into like 12 plus, you kind of hit like about to hit puberty, about to like your body's going to change, and it was really difficult to stay that weight. So a lot of what I used to do was like running to keep the weight off, and then extra training sessions on a morning, like pedestal work, extra conditioning, trampoline. Sometimes we used to like learn our skills on a trampoline at the beginning before we'd put it with our partner. So when Lindsay retired, I got a new base called Candice, who again was wonderful, but she was in South Shields. That's where she was from.
Okay.
So she used to travel like an hour and 40 every single day there, an hour and 40 back just to train. So we knew that there were going to be no real longevity in that. It was going to just be for like a year or so. So me and her did a Europeans together. I think we came 4th at Europeans, but again, not a bad word to say about that girl. She made my experience much more bearable. When you're a top and you're up against that kind of training, if you have a supportive person like that, it really changes how you feel quite a lot. So again, I was obviously still battling, like trying not to put weight on, get taller. Like it's a really tricky situation. This is about 2005, 2006 now.
And how old are you then?
Oh, I want to say I'm probably like 13, 14.
Okay, so very early for those sorts of pressures and stresses to be on a person.
Yeah, and I think I didn't know that at the time.
No,
when I
not
look
at all.
back, I think, oh my God, that's like so much to put on you. And when I think, I remember coming home and being like, yeah, I don't want anything for tea. And that was just normal.
You don't even, for me anyway, at the time when you're doing things like that, you don't even really resent doing it.
No.
Because, like you said, you don't know any differently. It's just, well, this is something I have to do. I can't eat because it's not an option.
Yeah, that is that's that nail on the head. And I used to train before school. I used to have an exemption to going to school late. So I used to train from like 5 a.m. till like 9. Then I'd get taken to school by my coach. I'd obviously go to school and then finish school, go back and train with my partner on a night. And I think back, that is a lot for a young child. I mean, it's in any elite sport that. You ask your swimmers, they're doing the same thing. But I think back about how little I probably ate to do that is crazy.
Yeah, that's the biggest take home. The double sessions and things like that, they do occur in lots of sports. And if you want to be at the top, that's just the work you've got to put in. It's everything behind the scenes. They're keeping the weight down. At 12, 13 years old, knowing that you're not going to eat anything tonight because it's just not an option to eat.
And like the running with ankle weights on, the running with tracksuits on to sweat more, then getting weighed when you come back in. And when I think back, like I still have problems as a 31-year-old person getting weighed now. And I think back to when we used to get told we're going to get weighed. There was like a little book that all our weights were written down in. I hated that book. It gave me anxiety. And when we used to know we were going to get weighed, it weren't just me, but I'd run to the toilet, I'd spit in the toilet, I'd take as many things off my body that would weigh. I'd take earrings out in case they were like 0.1 of a kilo, which is crazy.
It's horrible to hear.
That's what we did. And in the hope of weighing what they wanted to weigh. And I think now I'm flipping to the future here, but now I do CrossFit. I could just never imagine my coach now. If anything, he'd be like, have you eaten enough today? Like, have you had some carbs? Like, are you okay? Yeah. I could never. And I think, God, if I knew now, like, how to feel my body, what I knew then, I'd have been a much better gymnast probably, which is wild because it was not always linked to your performance either. So like the weight driven thing, that would always just be used as the excuse for if you fell or if you did bad at a competition. But actually what else is going on? You've probably been injured for 6 months and you've been pushing through it. That might be the reason you've messed up at a competition.
And not fueling your body.
Which just makes you injured more, makes you more tired. You're training under more fatigue. It's wild, but yeah, so the weight management for me as a sports acro gymnast was tough. And I think when I look back at that time, I'm proud of what I did and I loved hand balancing, which is why I still love it now in my adult life. But however, when I think back, I just think about all them times I got weighed, which is sad, isn't it? But I had some great success. I had amazing partners. But when I just think, well, I was weighed multiple times a day over and over again.
Yeah, those are the memories that really stick out because they're the ones that are still having an effect now.
Now, yeah, it's not the stuff I sell. I don't celebrate. Oh, their families were lovely, went to Worlds. And yeah, that is great. And I don't want to sound ungrateful because I've been to some amazing places, done amazing things. But as a 31-year-old adult, what sticks with me more is that.
So if we go from sports acro to tumbling, how did you make that transition?
So when my partner Candice, she quit, so probably about 14 I am now, proper like 14. I was like messing around with other partners. They tried to put me in a mixed pair and I got dropped a couple of times. I was like, nah, I don't want to do this. And I was getting bigger. There's no other way around it. I was getting taller, I was getting heavier. Like,
and as a top, without sort of leaning into the weight discussion and things like that, you need to be super light to be a top, which is why when you were talking about body shapes earlier and growing, sometimes people just grow out of being a top.
And that's where I was getting to. So I had a session where Candice couldn't get here because it was snowing. This is literally before I decided to tumble.
That's the north.
So they let me tumble. And I loved it. I had like a session where I just were tumbling. I absolutely loved it. So when they were flitting me between partners, I remember going to the coach's office with my parents and I was like, I want to be a tumbler. I got told, if you do this, you'll never put a Great Britain tracksuit on again.
That's a good start to have, isn't it?
Yeah, and
it's
I
a lovely start to have.
Me.
Yeah, maybe it was the best thing for you.
I mean, I was pretty at the beginning, I won't lie. And I thought, maybe I won't be able to prove them wrong. I remember that as clear as day. A rocky start to tumbling, let's say. It just took me a while to like get to grips. It's a very different gymnastics at the end of the day.
Hugely different.
It's a different discipline for a reason. And then I kind of got to grips with it, did my first British, and then I qualified for Worlds in 2007. So that's like a year and a bit after starting.
It's not long at all.
No.
And there's only 4 positions for each age group for that World Championship?
Yeah, so I went in 15-16 age group there, and it was in Canada. It was amazing. And I just thought, well, I've done it. Like, I've got my Great Britain tracksuit back, because obviously...
They were wrong.
How dare you? I know I was at the beginning, but I'm here now. Yeah, so I went to Worlds in 2007 as a junior, like 15-16. It was amazing. I got a world medal there. So I came third there. Amazing. I actually came joint second, but it went on count back, and I'd never say anything bad about Jordan because I love her, the Canadian Jordan Sugrim. She's just an amazing person.
Yeah, we love Jordan Sugrim.
We love her. So me and her would join, and it went on execution, not difficulty, and Jordan won, and she were incredible, so it didn't matter. I was just buzzing to get a world medal. And it was like my first, I don't know, like step into tumbling and all the nice people, and I got to meet the trampolinists because it's a different kind of Worlds and Euro schedule to it at Sports Aqua. They're very much handled as different disciplines. So I did that, and then still as a junior did Europeans 2008, and I actually went to that competition injured, so I had a broken heel. But I'd had this injury for like 6 months, and my coach was like, it's growing pains, it's definitely, common. It weren't. So when I finally went for an x-ray 2 weeks before Europeans, they were like, it's broken, you've got like a fracture. So anyway, we just still went to Europeans.
Of course.
Which is another trait of gymnastics, I believe, is trained on injury. I've trained on many, many injuries. But I feel like I probably got more injuries in tumbling. I don't know why, I just did. I think it's more rebound. It's a lot more pressure through your joint, potentially, like
Lots
the actual
impact.
jumping and stuff. Yeah. So I went to that injured, and we won team gold there as juniors. Amazing. That was lovely. And then Rach won that Euros, I want to say as well, which were amazing. Rachel Lech, what a legend. But then I had to heal that injury. And then it just starts like a heel compete thing. So actually, when I won that medal, I'm probably not at the time, but I was the first British gymnast to win world medals in 2 different gymnastic disciplines at that point.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
I might not be
cool
anymore.
Statistic.
Someone's probably done it since.
But you were the first.
Well, yeah, I got told that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I got told that it's not been done very often.
Oh, we're sat with a record breaker.
Yeah, indeed. Because they are classed as completely different gymnastics disciplines. They're very different.
So different, yeah.
My tumbling highlight in 2009 is when I won Worlds in Russia.
Yes.
So I was still technically at world age, so I was 17 to 18 at that point. But yeah, that was probably like the best comp I ever had. And I feel like as a tumbler, like I was probably a better junior than I were when I moved into senior ranks. But that's fine. I'm okay with that. I think it was more that I'd proved to myself I could do it, that I'd made this switch, and anyone could do it if they wanted to. You don't have to stay in that area of sport if you wanted to explore something else. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I got made to feel like I should. That, you're not going to be anything else if you move. You'll never be anything else and whatnot. However, I was still weighed as a tumbler, which got worse as I became a senior, I would say.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's just because I'm getting older. Like, you've fully hit puberty at this point. You are fully a woman. You're at college. You're getting a little bit older. So like 2009, I was in 17 to 18, but I was turning 17 in that year. I was still 16. So then I hit the senior ranks in 2010. Where we drove to Bulgaria.
The volcanic
ash cloud. Went 4 days on a coach, what a dream.
Yeah.
And then in typical style, we could have flown home, but no, the coach is here, so get back on it.
Well, yeah, tradition. Respect the tradition of how you got here.
It makes sense. And I actually had a really good comp there. I finished 4th, and I was like our top seeded senior woman. So I had a really good comp. It's just, you're up against, I was up against like Anya and Fang and all them, and I feel like we were up against some of the best tumblers that have ever existed.
Yes.
When I was around, and I'll stand by this and I'll say it for like Rach and Jenny and all them, we were up against like probably some of the best world tumblers that we'd ever seen in the female ranks.
Absolutely.
Genuinely.
And still to this day, they are potentially the two best that have ever lived.
100%.
Yeah. So tumbling, obviously a really, really successful career, both at junior and senior level, especially given how late you started and the fact that you would never ever wear a Great Britain tracksuit. So from tumbling then, how have you found your way through the sort of weightlifting journey and into CrossFit?
Difficult is one of the first words I'm going to use. So when I retired from tumbling in 2012, I needed full ankle reconstruction just from training on injury for so long. That took about a year to heal. So I got that early 2013. And when I say I did nothing for years, I genuinely mean it. Like if I showed you photos, I don't even look like the same person. I did nothing. And I don't want to call myself out for being overweight and what, but I was uncomfortable and I weren't me. I might have gone to a generic like council gym, probably like twice.
And is there a reason that you went from being a world-class athlete to almost the complete opposite straight away?
I feel like I just resented everything. I didn't want to watch gymnastics. I didn't want to know about it. And that just bled into sport and fitness in general. I almost felt like fitness were a punishment. So why would I want to go to the gym? If I were running, it's because I was fat. If I were doing conditioning, it's because I was fat. So I felt like I'd just drawn a line. And I was like, I don't want anything to do with sport, gymnastics, nothing. I obviously had life experience. I went to uni. I got, I worked full time. I met Brandon in that period, which was amazing.
Lucky lady.
Lucky me. So I had life experience, but personally, I didn't do anything sport related or even just looking after myself related.
So hearing you say that you didn't really look after yourself in that period, do you think that there may be underlying feelings or feelings that you're aware of that you're almost not liking yourself and therefore not wanting to take care of yourself, not seeing much value in taking care of yourself because what's the point?
100%. And I feel like I didn't even want to because I've had all these years of somebody weighing me and dictating what I should look like and what I should weigh. I was just like, who cares now? I don't care. Nobody cares. It's irrelevant. I'll just fester, which is an awful thing to think. When I think back, I must have been absolutely miserable. I remember just laid on the settee, just like a shell of who I was. And that initial year of retiring from something, I don't care what sport it is soul destroying. You have gone from something being your everything. And I did have a life outside gymnastics. I always say I was never just that. I was doing a law degree when I finished. I had other things. However, that was my enjoyment in life and it was my purpose at times. Like it was the reason I was training. I had a goal in mind. I was competitive. And I think I didn't even know who I was. 2013, 2014, I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know what my identity was. I was just finished uni, graduated amazing, got a law degree. I'd like started full-time work. I was working like in enforcement back then. And it was great, but I just didn't know who I were. And it's a really weird feeling where I sometimes still feel it now, even though I'm having like some great times as a CrossFitter. I still have this feeling that I peaked at like 15 to 17 and I'll never do anything good again. That I will never ever do anything successful or good again in my life.
Yeah, I hear
ever.
You.
And I'm just judging that on sport when actually, I've got married, I've got a dog, I've got a house. Like they're all things to be celebrated, but I still get that feeling sometimes where I think I'll never be anything. That were it for me. And it's scary. And
I think so many athletes have that. Our identity is, what did people used to come up and say to you in the street if they didn't really know you but they know who you are?
You're the gymnast.
You're the gymnast, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because that's all I ever got.
And I get that still now sometimes. Yep. You probably will.
And so where is your identity? Because that's all anyone ever knows you as. It's all you know yourself as. You really do lose that identity.
Yeah. Like I just said, even now I still get those feelings sometimes where I was the gymnast and I think, God, I'm like nothing now. Like I've had my time. What does it matter? I've had my time. That one, especially in them like darker years when I did nothing. What did I have going for me? Oh, great, I've got a degree and I'm still living at home and I'm like working, I'm earning money and stuff. But what was I? Like I couldn't even tell you.
So going through a really, really tough time in terms of dealing with that injury and the recovery, dealing with retiring from gymnastics, which is all you've ever known.
Yeah.
How did you find CrossFit?
So somebody via work said, there's these classes at a CrossFit gym in Pontefract and they were called Sweat and it's just conditioning. And I was like, I could really do with like getting some fitness back. It doesn't sound like a bad idea. So I went to Sweat. And I loved those classes. I felt like, oh, I'm getting like a little bit of fitness back. This is nice. And I had like a purpose after work of something to go to. And it turned out I could kind of like lift weight quite well because of my gymnastics past.
Yeah.
So like the barbell was just like second nature. So I moved into it. This is 2018. So you've got to think I retired in 2012.
Yeah.
I found a CrossFit related thing in 2018. I've had
time.
6 years of no real like fitness or like a class of sport, nothing. I had gone to the gym in bits and bats, but nothing like that. And if you know CrossFit, which I know you do, it's the intensity is like nothing you've probably ever experienced. Like,
in terms of a sport, CrossFit, in terms of exertion, there's not a hell of a lot that compares to it. It is disgusting,
it's
isn't it?
vile. I'm like much fitter now than when I was elite gymnast, 100%.
Yeah, in terms of fitness.
So much fitter, yeah. So I started at sweat, and then it became apparent that I could lift a barbell. So I moved into CrossFit so I could get to lift a little bit more weight. So this is 2019, and they used to be... So it's weird because I started in CrossFit, learnt a few skills courtesy of my husband. I'm going to have to give him a shout out. So he taught me to like toes to bar, pull up, because I'd never done bar gymnastics. So that were all quite new to me. Like I randomly kicked back up into a handstand 6 years later and we're fine. Like I'd not been upside down. This is how much I resented gymnastics, like nothing. So I can do all that, but Brandon had to really help me with the other stuff. But I loved the barbell classes. We had weightlifting classes. So I just like snatched 50 kilo like on the first time, which a lot of girls were like, I've been trying to do that for like years. I'm like, oh really?
Like most girls do when they walk in the gym for the first time.
So I think my mobility from gymnastics really helps, and I've obviously got muscle memory and I know all that contributes, but from a fitness level I was starting again. Like I really was starting again. I know I'm lucky with the muscle memory, spatial awareness. My mobility of my body came back quite quickly. So I started these barbell classes. This is 2019 going to 2020. And you know where we're heading now. We're heading to COVID. So the gym got shut.
Lovely.
And I just started like properly going into weightlifting here.
Found something.
And I was like, I love weightlifting. This is amazing. I absolutely love it. And I still love it. I love watching weightlifting. I love lifting a barbell. So I started taking the barbell classes more seriously and followed the weightlifting coach to a gym that he opened. So I'd maybe done a good 8-9 months of CrossFit. I did my first open back in like 2019, 2020. And I couldn't even do like a handstand press up then or something. I was
Humbling.
like very humbling. I mean, it's still a humbling experience
Yeah.
now. Every time I come with someone, like I just know I'm going to like want to cry. So I started weightlifting at his gym. And this is like in and around lockdowns. This is where I started competing. So I did my first comp in person, and obviously they weigh you.
And that was a weightlifting comp,
A
wasn't it?
weightlifting comp.
And where did you finish?
I won.
Ooh.
Yeah, won that one. But the getting weighed thing I did not like. And I knew it would come in. I'm not stupid. It's a weightlifting competition. I know your body weight plays a part in it. And actually, the coach that I had said, you're going to enter this comp. Don't weigh yourself. Just put yourself in the highest category that you think you might weigh. So that you're not cutting, you're not doing anything, you're just going to enter a comp. That's what I did. So I think I like weighed the lightest in that category, but it didn't matter. I didn't have to cut for anything.
Yeah.
I just did it. And that mentality helped me, but it still didn't stop me having anxiety when a woman's like asking you to get weighed in a room, writing it down.
And was it exactly the same feeling that you remember?
Yeah, it's like that heart palpitating feeling. Like your chest closing up. Like I get weighed at the doctor and I don't like it. I'm like I'm always dreading what that number's going to show, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I remember at Lilleshall, we spent obviously a lot of time there, week in, week out, especially in big prep for major comps. And there was scales in the gym.
I remember them well.
I used to probably step on those scales 10 times every day.
Yep.
Because I needed to know how much I weighed all the time.
Yep. I actually think Lilleshall and the humiliation of being weighed at Lilleshall are a different beast than being weighed in your own gym. There's nothing that used to humiliate me more than being weighed at a national training camp with other sports. Like artistic used to be there and hear things. And I remember being lined up and got told not to eat that night as a 17-year-old woman. And I had a glass of water when we all went out to a pub that night. And I didn't eat.
And it's not to point fingers, but it's just worrying that it's almost so accepted within gymnastics that can be said.
Nobody bats an eyelid.
As a normal part of communication.
Yeah, nobody bats an eyelid. And I think it's obvious that it's normalised because not even any artistic person thought that was out of the ordinary.
No.
So I think it's a system. You know, I'd like to think it's not as bad now.
Yeah, I think things are changing. So we're definitely going in the right direction.
And I have to acknowledge, like you just said it then, I played a part in my own suffering. as well, because I did want to know what I weighed all the time, and I was like almost making it worse that I'd be obsessive about it, and it's like I could see myself doing it. And when I look back, I think, God, you were such a part in all that. And I think about the words, I still do it to myself now, and I know I'm bad for it, like the words I use to describe myself and maybe other people. I'm like, you were just part of that cult of like calling like yourself fat and other people fat is a normal thing to do, because that's the vocabulary that you were using all day. And I always have to acknowledge that maybe I played a part, my own suffering a little bit with it too. But to me, it was a conditioned normality. So why would I question it? Why would I question that my behaviour is not normal? Because it's normal in this world.
Yeah. And I think it's important to look at ourselves and say, was I playing into this? And was some of this my fault? Or did I make mistakes? And yeah, it's really important to do that. But those behaviours are learned behaviours.
Yeah.
The reason that you are weighing yourself constantly isn't because you were born like that. It's because you've been taught to think like that and taught to behave like that. And that is how they've been taught to view themselves and view their sport and view their bodies.
Yeah, 100%.
So we know a lot about how you started out in sport and your journey through sport. What I want to ask you now is, what was the biggest challenge that you faced throughout your entire sporting career? The sort of thing that you struggled with the most?
So I retired in 2012. So I did my last Europeans in April 2012 as a senior gymnast in Russia. And then we got invited to do the London Olympics, the opening and closing ceremony, which is a massive high.
Yeah,
amazing thing to do. We did auditions, amazing thing to do. So I went and did that. However, the year of 2012, I had a recurring ankle injury where it was just on, and there was something wrong with it because I'd literally just walk and it'd give way, like I couldn't do anything. I did a pre-competition in Southampton before I went to the Europeans where I was in that much pain with my ankle. I actually didn't put like a dismount on the end. I felt like my Achilles were going to snap. I was in agony. So I knew that I was going to go to Europeans a little bit injured. So I was okay at Euros. I was like 7th or something. I was there to help the team. Again, we came 2nd again at that one. And there was an overall disappointment with that result. You've won a European medal and you're just like, okay. And I feel this is where I started to get a little bit detached because I was in agony. So I'm like detached from any success. Like 2nd at Europeans, I brought him a European medal. I should be buzzing. Yeah. And I just don't care. It's just not me. So I was just in agony. So when I got the London gig, I knew full well that I was going with a little bit of pain. So they made sure I could see a physio down there, which is more than I could say for like the organisation I've been paying to help keep me safe and insurances and whatnot. So I had a great summer, loved it. Probably actually had more life experience in that summer that I'd had in the whole life because you're very sheltered as a gymnast. I had a great time. But I was actually excited to get back to training when I got back, and I was like, I'm going to heal this ankle, get back and try and go to World Games or something. And I got back and they looked at me, said I was fat, weighed me and said, go out running. And I had an ankle injury that had been causing me agony for months and months and months before I went to London. And I walked out of that gym club and never went back with no explanation. I just was like, no, I'm done. I am absolutely done. And the hardest challenge for me is knowing how disposable I were. After all of them years that I'd put in, I was irrelevant. It was the fact that nobody even followed up with me, and I had quite a bad injury. So it was beyond being a gymnast at that point. How do you actually treat a human being? And that is not it. I could not imagine another human being in any walk of my life, at work, in the town where I walk my dog, telling me that they're in pain and me not actually just saying, are you okay?
And especially when that's someone that, not only someone coming to you and saying, this is how I feel or this is what's happening with my body, it's someone that a lot of these people that are making these decisions or saying these things have known since she was a little girl.
Yeah.
It's not just someone, it's someone that they have a professional duty of care to, but you'd hope that as a fellow human being, they'd have that duty of care to you in that sense. Where's the duty of care? Yeah,
and it were at that point that I really realised there is none. There is none. The organisation that I'd been a part of for a long time didn't even want to consider my well-being. It's a hard one. I think it is probably the worst thing in my career because it is the ending of my career, but it's also a really crappy way to end as well. I've not gone out on a comp high where I'm like, this is going to be my last Worlds or this is going to be my last even British, anything. I've gone out because I'm injured and I feel like all they care about is what I look like, what I weigh, not about actually how I'm feeling or the help that I might need to get back. It's like when I was at the end of London, I felt really like motivated to get back, and I didn't ever see going to London as the end of my gymnastics career ever. I was at uni at the time, which was going to be difficult, but I never thought, oh well, if I go here that'll be the end. It was the end because I realised how disposable I were and that I weren't worth anything to them. And I was raised by that sport. I did my GCSEs, my education, everything happened whilst I was doing that sport. It is almost like I spent more time with those people than my parents, than friends.
And people like coaches and teammates, you generally trust them more
100%.
than parents, which sounds awful, but...
Yeah. You do. You're spending a lot of time with them. You trust them to take you away without your parents for the first time. Like, I think when I was like 10 years old, I first went to Prague on my own for like a sports acro comp with just the coaches. And that's a lot for your parents to just be like, well, we trust that you're in the hands of, like professionals. So for me, that's when I went away, and we did have a little bit of an ongoing back and forth with the organisation as a whole about like insurance, about getting my surgery. I needed surgery on my foot and it just weren't worth it in the end. So I ended up just doing it all myself.
So they wouldn't honour any sort of insurance?
No.
And what was the reason for that?
They were trying to claim that I'd not done it during that time, that I'd done it in London, but we had so much evidence that I'd actually had this injury for a while. I mean, the year before in 2011, I dislocated my arm and then went to Worlds a week later. So it's not like it's an isolated incident. We're talking about repetitive training on injury throughout my career.
It's really scary that an athlete that's won major medals in two separate sports is coming to them and saying, I need to claim on the insurance that I've been paying for the past 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it was. And that the process for anyone within that organisation seems to be very difficult, let alone if you're a multiple major medal winner who is recognised as one of the best gymnasts in her discipline in the country, in the world. How do we get to a point where you're begging for the organisation to just claim on the insurance?
Yeah. It's just wild. They were saying because I'd been in London, that's where I'd done the injury. But I mean, if we find them videos from Southampton, I used to have loads of them. Like, I literally couldn't put my foot on the floor. Like, that's what I was dealing with. And if I'd not had all these other occasions in my life where I'd trained right through an injury, which again, I consider myself accountable again in some ways, that I just accept that, oh, I'm in pain again, oh yeah, you know what, I've dislocated my arm, let's get it straight in a week and try and compete. Sounds like a really good idea. I've just gone along with it. But I just don't know if enough were enough at this point. But that event's my lowest, is finally realising that it doesn't matter about all them hours I put in or all the travel I did or all the suffering I had with my weight and everything, the running in the tracksuits and having to run on my only day off meant anything, because when I got back it was just,
to not make it and then to realise how you were treated, maybe not the entire time, maybe some of the time. That's a really hard pill to swallow, is that I didn't do all the things I wanted to do. And it wasn't necessarily just because I fell short or didn't work hard enough. Some of the factors were out of my control and were wrong. Yeah.
And I don't know how you actually process that. I still don't know now as a 31-year-old person. So, when I think back to that time, what would I do now as a 31-year-old?
Yeah, difficult to experience and sort of go over. So when you returned from the London opening ceremony, you said you were really excited to return to training. You wanted to get back. You wanted to push on. You wanted to get your ankle sorted. So you're walking into that gym, right? This is day one of work starting.
Yeah.
And it took 1, 2, 3, however many comments, and awful comments, but 1, 2, 3, 4 comments on that day for you to walk out of that gym, which is the only thing you've ever really known.
Yeah.
It's been your life and soul for so long. Have you looked back and reflected on that? Because that sounds like someone snapping. It sounds like not a tiny bit of stimulus. Those comments are horrendous, but you were used to those comments.
It's nothing I've not heard before.
Yeah, you were used to those comments. So this time you left the gym after those comments and you never came back.
Yeah, I think at the time I didn't know that, but looking back, 100% it were. Like, I walked away, I was coaching. I never went back to be a coach. And this is when I spoke about earlier, that big break where I didn't even want to watch gymnastics. I feel like that was that moment where I was like, this sport has done me. Like, it's the sport's fault. And
Anger, frustration, sadness.
Yeah, and I was so sad. Like, I was so sad. Like, I'm still sad when I think about that now. Like, I'd have loved to have ended my career on such a nicer moment. I'd watched friends in the past have their own, like, this will be my last Worlds, and we celebrated the banquet and we cheers to them and their career, and I never got any of that. Not that I need that validation, but I just wish it were a happier moment, and it were one that I know I chose it, but probably through some kind of mental, I cannot do this anymore. Not through, what a career. I'm ready to part that now and move on with the rest of my life.
We all want that into our career. We all want that big final goodbye after a successful career. We all want it. And we don't all get it. I didn't get that.
No.
However, again, the bad taste that's left in the mouth is that you didn't get it because you weren't good enough. You didn't work hard enough. You got it because the load that was put on you in so many ways as an athlete was so great that dedicated sports acro tumbler that won so many medals and worked so hard for so long walked out one day after walking in with such pep and so ready to go and never returned. Yeah. That's huge.
And I do think now you said it was probably like some kind of like Britney moment. You know,
I think just the way that you sort of said it, you were excited. If you were going into the gym dreading it, and then some comments were made, it's understandable. Of course,
I'm ready.
Away.
I'm done. If I were going in thinking, I don't really know if I want to come back, then
it's an easy choice.
But I don't remember feeling that way. I remember thinking, I didn't go to Russia, Europeans, thinking this is my last time I'll be away with all these. Yeah. Didn't treat that Euros as like the last time I put on a Great Britain tracksuit. I really didn't.
And now you have to be
passed me down that were it.
With that actually being the last one. Yeah. You have to now retrospectively look back and go, well, that was my farewell.
That was it. Couldn't tell you anything about it. There were no standout moment, no standout performance, no standout like memory of being with people or being in the moment at all. Yeah. It's just sad.
Yeah, incredibly sad. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, horrible thing to have to go through, and a really, really sad end to something you adored, something you gave everything for. If you could go back to that day where you've just walked out the gym, you've got weeks, months, years of recovery ahead of you, and like you've mentioned, potentially still some recovery to do now. If you could go back to those moments immediately after the event, would you do anything differently? And if so, what would that be?
I think I've left too much unsaid. I wish I'd have fought for myself a little bit more. I don't know if it were out of fear or not believing that I deserved that fight. But when I think back to that time, I wish I'd have said everything that I wanted to say. Like, look, I'm in pain and this is what I need to happen, but I really want to come back, and I didn't ever do any of that. I just let it pass me by. And I think it's maybe because I was in some kind of like breakdown mode where I was just ready to be done. If I can go back to that, I'd have maybe cooled off for a couple of weeks and then been like, right, let's just go in. Let's just like, have a proper... And I had these conversations at home, but I never like acted on them. And I wish I did. And I wish I'd have fought for me and my career. And it's only now when I look back, I believe that all them successes belong to me, and it took me a long time to get there, because I was like, no. And I think, no, they did belong to me, and I know that now, but that girl then didn't. I just thought, oh, it all belongs to the club, my coaches. I was just a small fraction of it. It weren't really me, it was other people making it happen. So I think I didn't have any fight in me, because I was like, well, if the people that have made me achieve these things have got no fight, what's the point in me having any? Which just sounds weird, but if I could go back, I wouldn't have left all these things unsaid, because I think it's made the healing process a lot longer. I've got so much that I wish I'd have said about how I was feeling and how it had made me feel, that instead I had to just bottle it up for years and years.
And as an athlete at that point in time, obviously it'd be lovely to be able to go back. But do you feel that you had any sort of place to be able to say that and to be heard?
Not be heard, no. No, I think if I'd have said it, it wouldn't have been a good reaction. I think I genuinely didn't say it out of fear of gymnastics and its culture as a whole, not of fear of one person, fear of how conditioned gymnastics is. I ain't got a place to say that kind of stuff, and somebody take me seriously. I don't believe that people would want to listen to that be said.
A lot of the time, no one's interested. No one wants to hear what you have to say.
No, I agree.
And I think athletes don't ever really feel empowered. They never feel empowered that their voice has any say. And generally, when you do have to speak up, you have to speak up to the people that make all of the decisions. The people that decide who goes to the Olympic Games are sometimes the people you have a problem with. And not because you're different personalities, sometimes because things are being done that are not okay.
They're wrong.
And that voice that athletes lack, I think it's very easy to go back and say, well, I should have said this, this and this. But even however many years on, you've just admitted, well, even now I know it wouldn't have been good for me to speak up. No. And I know that I feel like that about a lot of things. I should have. A lot of people say to me, well, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell anyone?
I get that all the time.
but there's not a position to be able to do that as an athlete.
No.
It might be there, and it might be there in some sports, but for athletes to genuinely feel like they can voice their opinion, it didn't exist in my sport at the time. I don't know about other sports, but it's really an area where athletes, they can't speak up.
No, I might have said it. I'm sitting here now, 12 years later, like this is how long. I might have said it, but would I have ever gone on a Great Britain squad again? Who knows? Would those opportunities have ever come around again after saying that? You don't know. And like you said, the people that you've often got the issues with, or the organisation you've got the issues with, are often the people taking you to Great Britain competitions. So I might have said all that and then been excited to training and then never actually gone anywhere again anyway because of what I've said.
I think given what actually happened as well, you're probably completely right in saying that, because we've seen how disposable athletes
100%.
can be.
Yeah.
You're valuable until you're not valuable anymore.
Yeah. Sad. It's really sad. And I think it's something that'll filter through into my life on the days when I don't really expect it forever. And I do. I think I'll always have them moments where I just think I'm disposable. I don't know. Not that I think that every day, I don't. I'm very loved and I've got a lovely life. However, I could have one bad day or one bad thing and I can spiral quite a lot and it'll almost like consume me. And I'm like,
it all comes back.
Oh, this is why, like, this is why you were disposable. Like, this is because you're not worth anything. And
what we don't want to do here is just say athletes aren't at fault. Athletes are not at fault at all. That's not true. Athletes are always at fault. Of course, we're people and we do stupid things and we make stupid decisions. However, you can still hear in what you're saying now that even 12 years later, you still put quite a bit of blame on yourself for things that, to me listening, you weighing yourself constantly and saying, well, maybe I did some of that. It's a learned behaviour that you were taught, and taught quite unhealthily. Saying things like, you made the decision to leave. To me, hearing that story, I think if there are parents listening to this story and they heard that that was said to their child, there wouldn't be a decision to leave or not. You would not be in that sport anymore. So although a lot of people listening will think, that is absolutely abysmal, I cannot believe that happened to you, you're still sat across from me telling me that, well, maybe some of it was my fault.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's difficult because gymnastics can be a very toxic environment at times. And it sounds like you've experienced that, but you still are wearing quite a lot of those unhealthy behaviours on yourself. Yeah. As opposed to the people and the organisations that taught you to feel like that and behave like that.
Yeah, no one's doing it to make me feel like that now. Like in the sport I do now, it's non-existent. Like the coaches I've come into contact with, the coach I have, the thought of him ever mentioning my weight is...
Hilarious.
It would never happen. Anything other than like what my body can do, that is the only thing we care about. It's a very different world and I think it's helping me heal. But like you said, there's going to be these behaviours that I've learned that I'll have to live with for a long time. CrossFit's helping me because I've never been in a space before where nobody actually cares what you look like. And I truly mean that. Like in my gym and like with the guys I train with, nobody actually cares. People are more interested in what you can do. And that is quite exciting. Because not once have I had a bad workout at a comp and someone's gone, oh, it's because you're weighing a couple of kilo heavier. Not once has that been considered. It's been like, well, have you slept? Like, have you eaten enough?
Have you felt like that?
Not in CrossFit.
Amazing.
Not in CrossFit. No one's ever... Weightlifting was tricky, but it was my own thing. Nobody was putting pressure on me to lose weight or cut ever. But I didn't like the weighing. I couldn't do it.
It was the act of weighing.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. And I didn't want to know what I was weighing all the time before a comp. I just couldn't do it. Whereas CrossFit now, like, it's me that makes the degrading comments about myself. It's not anybody else. So I'll be like, someone will go, oh, that's a great, you're lifting learn. I'm like, yeah, because mass moves mass. And that's like my automatic response. Like, it's because I'm heavy.
It's what
no one else
has
said that to me. I've just gone, oh, it's because I'm heavy.
Yeah.
And knowing now how I like fuel my body a lot more for the sport I do, I think, what the hell were you trying to do doing that competition on the food that you had eaten? Or lack of food that you'd eaten?
100%, yeah.
What are you doing? No wonder you're injured all the time. Like, yeah, it's not normal that you in A&E every other Friday. And it's crazy to think back that I tried to do, and you'll be the same, an elite level sport on... I bet we were eating 500 calories or something.
Yeah.
If that.
Sometimes less.
And that's if I dared to eat 500 calories.
It depends when the comp is and what the weight is today.
And knowing when they're going to weigh you, when control comp's coming up. If I knew I was going to Lilleshall, God forbid, the thought of being heavy at Lilleshall used to give me nightmares, because that's when you're going to get humiliated in front of people that you don't know that well. Or you know, and you've got a lot of respect for, you don't want them to see you in that vulnerable state.
Yeah, because if you're heavier than you're meant to be, then you're not a good athlete, and you need to work harder, and you need to be better.
Yeah, to me, if I were heavy, I'm like, oh, I bet she's just been out eating takeaways and like not training and doing what she wants. And that's like, but that's the image I'd portrayed.
You couldn't possibly be growing and putting on muscle.
No, of course
and,
not. No.
Yeah.
And like when I was sent out running, then weighed again when I came in, and I got up in weight. Oh, God forbid that the blood's pumping around my body because I've been running. So when I did sports acro, this is a long time ago because I was very young, they got a nutritionist out to come and speak to us all. And they said, oh, your athletes should be drinking 2 to 3 litres of water during like a 4 to 5 hour session because they're going to be dehydrated. A coach at the back said they can't do that because we weigh them at the end and they'll be heavier. They were the words said. They can't do that. They can't drink because they'll be heavier. And I remember looking at that, and I'm young, and I just remember even then, like, I think gymnastics ages you quicker as well. Like, I might have been like 12-year-old at the time, but probably like 15 in my head because you're just around it. And I remember thinking, what's the point in paying this person to come and talk to us about nutrition if she's going to say that none of it's right? Well, they can't do that because they're getting weighed.
Yeah, the values are already set in the sport, and they're very toxic and unhealthy.
They're just doing
values.
it as a box ticking exercise. Oh, we got a nutrition house to come and talk to you. You should know what you're doing.
And I think things like that will be so eye-opening for people to hear. And hopefully that has changed.
I really hope so.
Hopefully that has changed a lot in the last 15 years. But it's very scary because parents send their children into those sessions because their children want to be there and they want something good for them.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, I don't have children yet, but if me and Brandon had a child and they wanted to do sport, I want them to do sport because the discipline, like the work, everything that you can learn from sport is incredible. It's incredible for your transferable life. Like if you go into a work environment, like you learn so much from sport, but the thought of it still being like that, then I can't imagine what I'd be like as a parent. I'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I'd be like banned from the parents weren't allowed to watch us when I was a gymnast. They weren't allowed anywhere near.
I ask my friends that do gymnastics, have done gymnastics.
Yeah.
Or people ask me, will your kids do gymnastics?
Yeah, I get that.
And my answer is always, probably not.
That's what I always say.
And
I say, not without an interrogation at the front door when they get home asking if they're all right, you know.
And it's
crazy.
so many gymnasts that I speak to have exactly the same response. And I don't think that you can point at people and say that they're attention seeking or looking for this or looking for that or moaning, because it is across the board. So many gymnasts I know say, no, I wouldn't let my kids do gymnastics.
Yeah, because there's a lot of that as well where people are like, oh, you're just attention seeking, it wasn't that bad, it's just elite sport, like crack on.
Elite sport's incredibly difficult.
Yeah. You know, you've got to have mental toughness. I stand by that. And actually, nothing of what, when I look back, that I want to moan about is the hours of training that I did.
No.
It's not actually about that. No. The hours I'd put back in again and again and again. Yeah. I train a lot now just for personal reasons because I love it. So it's nothing to do with actually working hard. It's all the other stuff that I've got the problem with.
So obviously we've learned a hell of a lot about your career and what you've been through. If you were able to give advice to athletes that are listening to this, something that you think they need to hear to navigate their career going forwards, what would that piece of advice be?
So it's a difficult one because it could be sport dependent. But for me, I think it's truly believing in yourself and that your successes belong to you because of the work that you've put in. I know that now at 31, but I did not know that throughout my gymnastics career. I believe that none of that was my doing, and I promise you it is. You're the one that gets up, you're the one that puts the work in, you're the one that, makes sure that they're there at a certain time and will train before school. That is common in elite sport and we don't want to stop that. We've all just watched the Olympics, which are incredible. And when I watched that, I actually saw, for the predominant of what you can see, is a lot of supported people, a lot of supported athletes. They were happy. The gymnasts were happy. They were healthy is the first takeaway that I have from that Olympics. They looked happy and healthy. And I think knowing that your successes belong to you. They don't belong to your organisation. They don't belong to your coaches. They're a part of your journey, but they are not the ones. When you retire, that doesn't stay with them. It goes with you, and you can take them to the next step in your life, be it a dream career or be it a new sport that you want to try. All those experiences belong to you. and try not to forget it, because I forgot it for a really long time. And I had the identity crisis of retiring from gymnastics, but also the feeling of not being anything or not being enough. And it's not true. You're enough as you are. You might never win another medal for as long as you live, and that's okay. You've got that hard work and that ethic that you've built in sport that you'll take with you forever.
Yeah, I think that's such a strong message. I think as an athlete, you're always, no matter what athlete you are, whether you're a football player in a team of 11 or a gymnast who's an individual, you are always part of some sort of system, which is a club or a national squad system. And we kind of feel like I know I do, and it sounds like you do as well, it feels like you're doing it on behalf of someone else.
Yes.
And when I was coaching athletes, I always said, if you do anything in this sport, make sure that the day that you retire, you didn't do it for anyone else.
Yes.
You did not do it because that coach expected you to. And you didn't change your routine necessarily because they said, oh, well, your difficulty is too low or too high. And obviously you go with the advice of your coaches and people that you trust, but make sure that when you finish your sport, that you look back and you don't say, I wish I'd have done this, this and this, but I didn't because this person, and this person put pressure on me or expected this of me. And it's so huge to own your career, and it's so hard to do when you're there. Yeah,
it's easy for me to sit here now years later and say do it, because I didn't do it for years. Probably when I started CrossFit, I only now own what I did as a gymnast. It's crazy. But for me as well, when I think back, when there's them warning signs and the bad's outweighing the good as well, you are allowed to leave. You don't owe them anything. You are allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to change your sport. You're allowed to do no sport. You are allowed to do those things. And even if you've been made to feel like without it you'll be nothing, it's not true. There's way more out there than gymnastics. There's way more out than your sport, but what you've learnt in your sport you'll take with you.
It's such amazing advice. Really, really. Yeah, I love that.
Get me on Jeremy Kyle.
Yeah, get her on. Sammy, it has been a pleasure to find out all about your sporting experience, and not as much of a pleasure to find out about your lows, but so interesting and so valuable. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
No, I've loved it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
What an incredible story and a rollercoaster journey through the world of sport. A huge thank you to Sammy for sitting down and sharing those challenging experiences. I hope you found her insights helpful and can take something valuable away from it. Join us again next time as we sit down with another remarkable athlete to discuss how they navigated the challenges of a sporting career. Don't forget to hit subscribe to get notified about all our upcoming content, and we'll see you next time.